one of the things I rarely hear meditation teachers talk about, at least in a way that is satisfying to me, is the specific difference in what day-to-day life is like, let's say 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into practice, when you're further down the spectrum, like you're, articulating, versus at the beginning. In what way is it different now when you stub your toe, or when, someone cuts across you in traffic, or when you get really upsetting news? I'm curious if you could speak to the specifics of how your experience has changed with years of practice versus
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
used to be.
yeah. Okay, well, the first thing I can say, the biggest thing for me was there was a single moment, that I can point to, the hour and a minute virtually, when when I went through the biggest shift that I've been through, and it knocked out all the kind of anxiety wrapped up in my career ambitions. I'd been, since quite young, I'd had quite a bit of, ambition, and it caught, I was often sort of anxious about it, sometimes exalted about it, thrilled about it. I get some poetry prize, I'm delighted, and somebody else gets the prize next year and I don't like it. That kind of thing, and fretting about, will I publish this thing here or not, and how will it sell? And that was knocked out. It was just taken out, and it hasn't really come back. It occasionally, since I published this recent book, every so often there's been just a little remembering kind of what it's like to be fretting about that stuff, and it doesn't get traction. And that for me was quite a big transformation, actually, because it had been.
When you say it doesn't get traction, I'm curious what that looks like.
Well, I could just I could see, oh yeah, that old habit of like, when's there going to be a reprint or something? I don't know what it might be. I'm trying to think of a good example, because it's pretty rare. And then realizing right away, this is arising in the midst of a great space, and it's just kind of nothing. It's just a little impulse of, it's just like watching a sort of a flow of a lava lamp arise and change shape and fall back down again. It doesn't constitute anything sort of that I can really identify with, and instead there's just, I remember, and I touch in again with this, basically a kind of boundless spaciousness. But even spaciousness isn't quite the right word, is because it's so still, it's so right here. It doesn't have a dimension. And when I say it, it's not something that can be named. It's just, Zen calls it original nature, but the words don't get it. So that's what it's like.
Is one way to describe it potentially that the degree to which you are anchored in the witness is much stronger, and as a result you're less susceptible to kind of getting pulled in or identified to the phenomena that is arising, whether it's thoughts or feelings or sensations? Is that
it's comparable to that, being the witness, the mindful, equanimous witness, the free, quiet, peaceful witness is a marvelous thing to learn, to inhabit, to be stable in. But this, I would say, is not the same, because it's no witness. There's really no witness, and that's again, maybe not a popular thing to say, but there is. I mean, I regard that witness consciousness as the sort of deep aspiration of mindfulness. But we can go further than that, where there really isn't even that. and we just can't say what there is, and it's much freer even than witnessing. There's just what's arising, no witness. That's really, I mean, Zen goes out on a limb here. What some other forms of Buddhism do as well, but it doesn't quite stay within the easily understandable territory, where that our minds can get around, because wrap themselves around, because there is we can go beyond what we can understand in practice. And I think in a way that's where the real deepest sort of freedom and joy and love come from, beyond understanding.
I'm curious if you could give an example, Henry, of a scenario or a situation in which the witness experience is distinct from what you're referring to. I'm struggling to wrap my head around what the difference would be experientially between just witnessing phenomena from kind of the seat of awareness to not even having the witness or the seat of awareness. So
yeah. No, good question. I mean, it's really about, and it's honestly really, this is hard stuff to convey, except through training. with people find this through, for example, Zen training and koan training. You can get to this place where there just isn't a seat of awareness. There's just what is arising, and there isn't a separatable witness or consciousness or awareness of any kind. I mean, for whatever it's worth, the texts, like there's a famous scripture, called the Heart Sutra. It's a sort of a short document from early Buddhism of around 2,000 years ago about, and it says in it, no mind, no consciousness, like actually to have the sense of, because a lot of us in the meditation world, there's a lot of emphasis on awareness, consciousness, and finding non-dual awareness, an awareness that's all pervasive and things, which is great. I am totally into that. But it is also possible to somehow see through even that, where there really isn't even an awareness, and there's just what is arising. And people would, make what they will of that, but it is really, it's for real.
It's interesting.
And
I'm curious, is that kind of your steady state these days?
No, I want to be totally flexible. I roam around in different states, and I'm very happy to do that. There's a Zen master, actually, a famous old guy called Rinzai, who said, I hope this isn't going too much into the weeds, but I'll just put it out there. He said, sometimes there's a person and no world. Sometimes there's no person and there is a world. Sometimes there's no person and no person. Sorry, there's no person and no world. And sometimes there's the person and the world. And all four are fine. So there's this map of Zen called the ox herding pictures. And without getting into them, but to sum them up, they say, go out on the journey of awakening, go out on the journey of enlightenment. And they sort of map out, getting a glimpse of it, getting it more stably, getting it more thoroughly, getting more deeply, getting it to the point where it all vanishes, there's nothing at all, but then come back to normal life and just be normal. So the end of Zen is like no more Zen, no more awakening, no more enlightenment, just leading your life in the most ordinary, down-to-earth way.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.